All right, good evening, everyone, and thank you all for joining us. My name is Alyssa Karpinka, and I'm the event coordinator for McNally Robinson Booksellers in Saskatoon. This event is coming to you from Treaty 6 territory, the traditional lands of the Cree, Saulteaux, Dene, Dakota, Lakota, Nakota, and Métis nations. Just to note that this event is being live streamed, so please be aware of the webcam to your right. I'd also like to take this moment to encourage you to silence your phones for the duration of the event. It's my pleasure to welcome you to the Saskatoon launch of Apparitions by Adam Pottle and published by Dark Matter Media. I'd like to introduce Carla, providing sign language interpreting of this event, and Rhonda, providing live captioning. Thank you both for being here, and thank you to Saskatchewan Deaf and Hard of Hearing Services for providing these services, and to their office coordinator, Ren Para, for working with us to make this happen. I'll now tell you a bit about Adam. Adam Pottle is a deaf author whose previous works include the memoir Voice and the groundbreaking fantasy play The Black Drum. He was the 2021-22 writer in residence at the Sheridan College and was a 2022 Warner Brothers Discovery Access Screenwriting Fellow. He received his PhD in 2016 and has taught English, creative writing, and professional communication for 17 years. When not writing or teaching, he's at the boxing gym, the library, or the park with his wife, Deborah, and their golden doodle, Valkyrie. I will now turn things over to Adam. Please give him a warm welcome.
Thank you, Alyssa. And thank you all very much for coming this evening. Apparitions is my fifth book, and I published my first one 12 years ago. So, I don't know, feeling a lot of feelings this evening. Anyway, let's start to get into the book. So I'm going to read just a few sections from the point of view of the main character, and this particular character has been imprisoned by his father for most of his life. And this is from the start of the book. Make a fist, tight, thumb crossed over your fingers like you might have punched someone. Drag it upward from your gut. Drag it slowly. As your fist nears your heart, arc it outward and open your hand wide like you're spelling something, sharing something. That's my name. Felix gave it to me. I don't know how long ago. I have difficulty with numbers. My parents never registered my birth, so I've never been sure of my age. No matter, I'm here. Whatever they tell you my name is here, they're wrong. I don't live on paper. I don't exist on paper. Neither my mother nor my father taught me language. My mother tried, but gave up. She preferred smoking and lying on the couch and watching TV. Her face was always sad, even when she smiled. Her eyes never smiled with her. Whenever I ran through the living room in her house, she spoke to me with a mouthful of smoke. For a few seconds, her words were visible. That was as close as I came to understanding her. My father took me from my mother and kept me below ground. Everything was violent at his house. The way the cement floor was broken, the way the cement chips dragged my bare feet, the way the walls seemed to spat like they ached to crush me, the way tiny nails twisted out from the wall around the entire door frame, the way the door was always locked, the way my father and his people ignored me when I beat on it with my fist, the way the ceiling pushed down on me until my shoulders caved and my head hung, the way the light was always on. I had to learn to live with that light pressing on my eyelids. Each night I turned over on my mattress and faced the corner. I learned to create my own darkness. Time meant nothing. All that mattered was what my father and his people did. All I knew was what I clutched in my hands or had ripped into my skin were seared into my eyes. My first language wasn't sign. It was violence. When they spoke to me, when anyone speaks to me, they speak in ghosts. That's what words are. We don't see them, but we feel them. My father and his people spat ghosts at me. They wanted their words to penetrate me, to fill me, to haunt me. But I was protected. The way I am saved me from becoming like my father, preserved my heart like a steel box. That's what Felix said. My heart is safe, or at least clear, but my mind is not. All those years swirl and spiral into puddles, like water from a child's glass. My thoughts drift. I can't hold them still. Felix had tried teaching me about time. He formed clocks with his hands, counted out the seconds, scratched out calendars on the air. Like a kidney made of iron, my body wouldn't accept it. Wouldn't accept that all the things that happened to me could be broken into seconds and minutes and weeks and years, that the blob of time I spent in that room in my father's house could be hardened into numbers and slotted into shelves that have been waiting for them all along. When I was first arrested, they argued for days over whether I should be tried as an adult. And now, every once in a while, my lawyer tells me I have a few more years before I can apply for parole. I don't know what that means. Telling time is trying to use a glass to control the river. Time is a way of controlling. Time means nothing if nothing changes. The night I escaped my father's house, his men dragged me between the back of the metal building and the bench, then stopped. Right in front of me, in the very corner of the property, the bigger man, my father's man, was digging a hole. I knew each man by his posture, the shape of his head. In the blackening sky, they were little more than shapes. My father stood to the left of the hole, his gun at his side. I thought I could see the front gate about 5 or 6 car lengths behind him. My feet sunk a little into the loose earth surrounding the hole. I squeezed it between my toes. I tried to concentrate. The red drink they'd given me had trapped me within my body. I felt I should be fighting, running, shouting. I tried to pull my arms away from the men holding me, but I had little strength. In the darkness, my father's face was a soft gray oval. He spoke to the bigger man. His mouth moved like a bat's wing. Hurry up! The bigger man stood waist deep in the hole, tossing dirt over his shoulder. I slumped. The 2 men held me up. I knew what was happening, but I couldn't fight it. The bigger man climbed out of the hole. He hunched over and held his chest. He had lost so much weight, his shirt sleeves swung up his thin arms, furred with gray hair. I smelled his thick sweat mixed with the dirt. The 2 men holding me dragged me over to the hole. I made a small noise, like a moth rising from my throat. My father stood on one side of the hole, the bigger man on the other. Their eyes settled on me like leashes. I wanted to scream, but my voice was too heavy for me to lift. I hated that my father had drugged me and wouldn't let me cry. Hated that he kept me in that room for so long. He smelled like metal. I tried to reach out for him, but the men held me still. They kicked off the backs of my knees and pushed me to the ground. I stared into the hole. It pulled on me the way my mattress did at the end of a night of fighting. Another small noise fluttered up my throat, tickled the roof of my mouth. I didn't want to die, but part of me was tired. Part of me wanted to slip into that hole while I was still full of that peaceful, lazy feeling. I wanted to become part of that darkness. A soft nudge struck with my mind. Something like, might as well. My father walked around behind me. He squeezed my shoulder, twist me around, or hold me steady. The end of his gun settled on the back of my head. I took a full breath and searched the sky for that last sliver of blue. A click echoed through my skull. Yellow light swung toward us from the left. Something splashed onto my face. The bigger man stumbled back against the fence. He stared at my father, blood spurting from his neck. Mud blood burst from his chest. His arms and legs folded upward as he fell into the hole. My father took his gun away from my head, and the man dropped me. Some ran around the corner into the metal building, while others, including my father, ran back to the house. 2 trucks had driven through the front gate. The gate and the loops of sharp wire lay crumpled beneath their tires. Men stood behind the truck doors, angry yellow flashes obscuring their faces as they fired. I struggled to stand. My father and the man disappeared. I finally hoisted myself up, but my feet slipped, and I almost fell into the hole. More light surged from behind me. Another truck rammed through the back fence. It stopped just in front of me, its light burning into my eyes. I tried to amble around the side of the truck, but the door kicked open and knocked me backward, sending pain blaring through my broken arm. A man with a beard stepped out, holding a long gun. He looked at me, he looked past me. He started shooting at the metal building. Holes popped through the silver. I got up and scrambled through the splintered fence. Flashes from the shots followed me into the trees. I ignored the rocks and needles jabbing into my bare feet. I looked back once. Another man in a hat stood in the back of the truck firing at my father's house, blowing out the windows and sections of the siding. The flash from his gun was bigger and sharper than the others. The burst of his shots slapped against my chest, an outraged ghost. I kept running. I couldn't see the flashes anymore. The sky became completely black. I couldn't see anything. Still, I ran. My toes beat the hard ground and stubbed against rocks and roots. I stopped. My body shook. The red drink still swam in my blood. My brain was liquid. I felt around me and steadied myself against a tree. I waited for my eyes to adjust. They didn't. I was too used to light. The world tilted beneath my feet, and I held onto the tree with both hands. I didn't trust the ground in the dark. Standing there gripping the tree, I thought of going back. I knew that place. It had light, food, a mattress, faces I recognized. Death might almost be worth it as long as I could see it coming. I waited some more, shivering. Then I started walking. My broken arm hung heavy at my side. I tugged at the duct tape, but it was wrapped too thick. My ear was wet and sticky. The top part was limp, floated down over the room where sound was supposed to enter. Something had torn it down the middle. The pain crawled and spread through my head. I sank to the ground and made a noise. I couldn't face the darkness alone. I lay with my chest against the ground, hugging the earth to ensure it would stay beneath me. I rubbed my face against the dirt and the green fur rolling up from the ground. My head swirled with their smells and textures. I spilled twigs and dirt and pebbles. They filled me with beauty. But they were too different. I was too free. I dropped the twigs and dirt and pebbles and clung to the ground and cried. I never slept. After some time, a line of blue appeared in the sky. Up ahead, I saw fields of green fur beyond the trees. I walked toward them. The cold awakened my skin. My body shuddered as my skin breathed freely. I wore a t-shirt and pants that stopped just below my knees. My feet bled. One of my toenails had snapped off. I smelled green, fresh growth. As the sun rose, the prairie opened up to me. It stretched all the way to the sky. I squinted. My eyes weren't used to seeing distance. Soon the whole sky was blue. A field of yellow flowers spread all around. The sun's warmth overwhelmed me. The first truly gentle touch I'd felt in years. Thank you. And thank you also to Carla and to Rhonda for their captioning and their interpretation. And I believe that now is time for a Q&A, questions and answers.
Yes.
Okay, so if anybody has any questions, the floor is yours.
What inspired you to write this?
Well, several years ago, I was reading a couple of accounts about these young deaf men who had been held captive by their families, like true stories about these young men who had been held captive. And they were never taught language, they were never taught to socialize, never taught social protocols, nothing like that. But when they left that captivity, they had preserved their humanity. And I wanted to see how they did that. And part of the answer became apparitions. Thank you.
What's your relationship with your dad?
That's a very good question. Yeah, that's all right. That's okay. Yeah. Yeah, we're getting along for the time being. Anybody else?
How old is the protagonist?
How old is the protagonist? When hold on, I have to do the math in my head. When he is first taken prisoner by his father, he is 6 years old. When he escapes, he's 16. So his father keeps him for roughly 10 years.
Maybe a similar question with age, but the beginning part of the story you read, he's thinking about Felix in past tense. Is a lot of the story told in retrospect, later the character thinking about it, or is some of it in present tense too?
It's in the past tense. And in fact, in the author's note, it says that the narrator, who is from whose perspective I just read, completed his prison term in January of 2005. And so he's at the time that he's looking back, he's actually in prison and looking back on all this.
Okay.
Yeah, but he's in prison for, you'll have to find out.
Question about the name. You gave us the sign of the name. Does he have a name? Like a verbal name?
A name that can be written down, you mean?
Yeah, or heard.
No.
No.
His name exists only in sign. But if you want to know the meaning of the sign is confess.
Thank you.
So obviously there's a lot that the narrator doesn't know about the world because he was isolated for so long. Did you find it difficult to describe various things that he was seeing and experiencing, knowing that he wouldn't have the words for it or the way to describe these things?
Oh my God, yes. Yes, because like as a writer, you're so used to doing your best to articulate something, but in this case, I had to, in a sense, do my not do my best, but I had to, but in order to get into that character's mindset, I had to completely throw away pretty much everything that I had and just really start from scratch, which is why it took me so bloody long to write this book. But I'm very glad that I did. That's excellent question, by the way. I have a question for you, Ron, if that's okay. How many of you are horror fans? The majority. Beautiful. Yeah, somebody's saying no, not for me. That's okay.
Depends on.
It depends.
Yes, some no.
I understand.
Adam, I recently read your memoir about writing voice, and I thought it was wonderful. And the sentence that you read from this novel, they speak in ghosts. That's what words are. It's fascinating to me, having recently read your memoir. Can you riff on that for a few more minutes?
Well, actually, there's a line in the memoir where I talk about words surrounding me like a world of ghosts, right? With this novel, I kind of wanted to take that idea and expand on it a little bit. And so the novel is called Apparitions, like partly for that reason, but it's called Apparitions for another reason, and that is because of the way that disabled people are seen. And the way that, especially the way that deaf people are seen. And Felix has a line where he says, they treat us like ghosts until we become ghosts. And the way that disabled people are dismissed or ignored or shut aside. And it's something that I was hoping to capture with the symbology of ghost. But very good catch.
Does this story mean a lot to you?
Yeah, very much. Yes, it's kind of my pandemic book, and I think that a lot of writers who have been working over the last couple of years, who are just now coming out with books, a lot of what they're producing is amazing, and it's also some of the most deeply felt writing that they've ever produced. And I think it's because the pandemic really gave them an opportunity to look at the world from a different perspective, and it's certainly done that for me. But I was able to take a lot of different things that I was feeling and really plug them into this book. So, this book means a lot. And this was also, it's my first horror novel. I published 4 books before this one, but it's my first horror novel. And I don't see myself deviating from that anytime soon. And I really missed horror because, as Alyssa said, in 2016, I finished my PhD. But when you're doing your degree, you have things that you have to read, as Kathleen can attest, like my former supervisor. And then once you graduate, you can focus on things that you want to read. And I found very quickly that I wanted to read horror and get back into it. And I discovered, holy fuck, look at everything that I was missing. And it was just a major revelation. And I hope the passion for horror comes through in the story as well.
Thinking of that question and your passion for horror, what are some of your top horror inspirations?
Oh dear Lord. But when you say inspirations, you mean like favorite movies, favorite books, or?
Yeah, your favorite, they might connect to how they inspire you to write, or just something that has nothing to do with the book but you love. Either way.
Well, first of all, I have to mention Stephen King. I mean, obviously, but I read his writing memoir when I was 16 years old, about my 16th birthday, and it really informed not just the way that I write horror, but the way that I write period. So that was very formative. A few other things that really stirred my writing. There's a film, an Australian horror film that's called The Babadook. Have many of you heard of it? Okay, it's an Australian horror film, and it's about a mother and her young son. And the mother's husband had passed away 7 years before on the day that their son was born. And she's very much having difficulty with her grief. And as she and her son are starting to work through this together, a children's book comes into their house. Nobody knows how it got there. And this children's book is called Mr. Babadook. And it's this really large, frightening, shadowy monster that continues to bother them and terrorize them throughout the rest of the movie. So that was an amazing film. Just the way, one of the things that impressed me the most about that film was how, first of all, how brave they were in terms of presenting a a parent-child relationship, and just how raw it was. And another thing that they did on that film was keeping the monster in the shadows. Like, you never get a full glimpse of the monster, and that drives the tension. We want to see the monster, and when we don't see the monster, it makes us that much more frightened. Yeah. And I actually have an iteration of the monster tattooed on my arm right here. So there's the Babadook, there's the Exorcist. In fact, wearing Exorcist shoes. There's a little known horror movie. It came out in 1987. It's called The Monster Squad. Many of you heard of it? Yeah. Very few people have heard of it, right? But I watched that movie when I was, I think, 4 years old. And it really kind of set the hook. So I need to stop there before I start really rambling, but those are just a few examples.
In terms of like the horror in your novel, what kind of horror can we find in your book?
What kind of horror will you find? You will find psychological horror. It's the psychological horror. There is a fair amount of graphic violence, and there is there's a horror story. Have many of you heard of a writer named Jack Ketchum? Jack Ketchum, he's most famous for writing a story called The Girl Next Door. And The Girl Next Door is considered one of the most extreme horror novels in existence. And this book is not as extreme as that. But there were definitely a few moments where I kind of took my cue from Jack Ketchum and really kind of had to twist the knife, so to speak, because this novel is about the horrors of ableism. And in writing about disability, because all my work talks about disability, I found that in order to really grab people's attention, I kind of have to slam them upside the head. And one of the beautiful things about horror is that it is a magnificent sledgehammer.
Do you have other horror projects in the works right now?
I do. Yeah. I am, as a matter of fact, working on a new horror novel at this moment. And I also hope to one day, because as you mentioned in the introduction, I was working with Marnie Brothers last year, and it would be wonderful to be able to produce that particular script. So hopefully one day.
Ooh.
Two hands. No,
Is this your favorite book you've written?
yes. It's I mean, like a lot of writers kind of tend to bullshit you and say like, oh, I love or my books, they're like my children. No, they're full of shit. They do have favorites. At the moment, this one is my favorite.
I was just gonna ask, how did you get involved with working with the Dark Heart collection or the Dark Heart imprint?
That's an excellent question. Because I had a hell of a time trying to get this published. And my agent at the time had sent it to Random House, they sent it to HarperCollins, they sent it to a number of different presses in Canada and in the United States. And the response was always pretty much the same. Like, we love the writing, but it's too dark. And I'm like, you know, fucking shit, it's a horror movie. It's a horror story. But I really started to wonder, is this ever going to happen? And just on Twitter one day, I had been just kind of talking about the book, and I think I was talking about like how I came to write it or something like that. And I got a direct message from Sadie Hartman, and Sadie Hartman is kind of the curator of Dark Heart books, and her nickname in the horror community is Mother Horror. And she actually just recently released a book called 101 Horror Books to Read Before You're Murdered. It's a wonderful, wonderful book. But now Sadie messaged me and said, this book of yours kind of sounds interesting. Would you mind sending it to me? And I said, okay, like what do I have to lose at this point, right? And I sent it to Sadie, and she would send me little emails saying, I'm 5% through it, but I'm hooked already. I'm 28% through it, and I love where the story is going. Adam, you're breaking my heart. I was just like, okay, don't build my hopes up until you finish the book. And then she did, and it's just actually no, but she said was should have got about 90% through the book, and she said, I'm 95% strong and offer you a contract for this. And then the next day she did. And the rest is history. Ben?
Are there any members of the deaf community or disabled community that inspire you particularly in your writing?
Yes, and there are many members of the deaf and disabled community, and who had a part in forming, like, in not just this book, but also my conscience. And Kathleen is one of them, my supervisor through this evening. And another one is she's a really, really prominent disabled advocate. Her name is Imani Barbarin, IMANIBARBARIN. and she lives in Philadelphia, I believe. And she's just an amazing human being. The same thing with Alice Brown, who lives in San Francisco, a very prominent, very brilliant disability activist. And there's also been a few deaf authors who really like as soon as they release a book, I'm there. And one of them is Sarah Nobish. And it's SARANOBIC. And Ilya Kaminsky. And Ilya Kaminsky he's a deaf poet. He grew up in the Ukraine, and then he immigrated to the United States. And a couple of years ago, he released a book of poetry called Deaf Republic. And actually, one of the lines that's in the book was inspired by a line that he wrote from that book. And the line goes like this: "What is silence? Something of the sky in us." And it's a line that I've carried with me ever since I read it. So just a few of the people who have had an effect on me. Okay. Thank you all again very much, everybody, for your attention, for your camaraderie, and for your love of horror. And I think that now we're going to kind of go to the signing, to the mingling.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can come and say hi to me. You can say hi to each other. So again, thank you all so much. And again, thank you to Carla and to Rhonda for their amazing work. Thank you.
I'll just say a quick word before I let you go. I'd like to thank Adam, Carla, and Rhonda again for being with us tonight. We have copies of Apparition on the desk to your right, which you've seen. If you'd like your copy signed, or if you'd like to say hello, as Adam said, he'll be happy to meet you at the signing table. Thank you all so much for coming tonight. Please enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you.